Okay everyone, so this is your first session on JavaScript Basics. So we've got the basic web page, and then we also have a sandbox.js file, which is what I'm using. But for this one, we're actually just looking at this. So you should have everything ready. So it should be fairly simple for you. You've got your doc.html, HTML language, head, title, body. So it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm using live server to preview the browser. So what I can do is I can go open my live server here. If you're using VS Code, you go down to here for extensions and just type live server. There it is. Click install. And it's done. Similarly, you can just do Alt-LO to open. You can see there. It says hello world. There's page title. There's it saying heyo. So essentially we have our script tag, which is here, and we can have the alert, which is hello world. And that alert function creates a pop-up on the screen. So if we go to the browser, that's where you see it. So if we go back to our browser, refresh, hello world. Now you can place the script inside the head, and that's absolutely fine, but it will cause some loading issues. So 99% of the time, if you're adding JavaScript to a page, I would do it not in the head, but instead at the bottom of the body, just before the closing tag right there. So if I save it, it will do the exact same thing. Likewise, you can also externalize it, which is another way of doing it. So here in this comment, if I take this out, I'll say script source equals sandbox.js. That's very similar to your link row equals style sheet, href equals. The script is basically the script tag, the source is replacing the href, and then it's going to sandbox.js. Okay, so go away live server. I'm going to show you a quick way of creating HTML5, so just like that. Everything's in, and we will call this one VCC, which is variables, constants, and comments. I'm also going to put in the body a script source equals and link it to 2.js. So that's at the bottom, and we'll just put in a little h1 tag that says hello world. So now we can open it with our live server. Again, just Alt-LO, or you can just right click, open the live server there. And there it is, hello world. So one of the most fundamental things in JavaScript is this notion of variables. And what variables do is give us a way to store value, like a name or a number or an email or a string, and then use that value whenever we want to later on in the file. Much like classes and IDs. There's a few ways we can create a variable, and the first way is by using the let keyword. So it looks something like this in a JavaScript file. You say let, that's age equals 25. Then we end it with a semicolon to finish the line. So think of this as saying let this variable called age be equal to the age of 25. Now this value is stored in the memory, so we can access it whenever we want, just by using the variable name. So I can just come down and say console.log and then put the age variable in there and then put a semicolon. So if I save it and go back to my browser, press F12 and go to console, can ignore this, but there's 25 right there. It's coming from the 2.js. So let's say let year equal to 2020, and we want to log this to the console as well. So what I could do is duplicate this onto the next line. But with one console log statement, you can actually put in several values, and we do that really simply with commas. So simple age then year. So save now, preview. There's 25. And there's 2020 or 2020. I think just ignore this. Just there you go. So this creates a variable. Now if we want to override the value of those variables later on, we can do. which is procedural. So now I can say age equals 35. So we'll look at where it is initially, which is up here, and then it will update it once we get down the bottom. We don't need to say let, we just take the variable that's already been defined and we change the value. So now here, if I put console.log and then age, we'll see 25 to begin with, and then we will see 30. Save preview, and there you go, 25, 2020, same line, and then next line is 35. So what if we want to create a variable, but we don't want the value of that variable to be able to change? So in this case, we'd use a different keyword. We use it's called const keyword. So now if we use const, we create a constant, and we will still give us a name. So we'll call these, let's say points equals 150, and this creates a variable much in the same way as the let keyword does. And we can log it to the console, so console.log, and then put points. And you can see there 150, but if I try and override the value the same way I did with age and put here points equals 1 and save it, see we get an error. Assignment to constant variable. You're not allowed to do that. We're using a constant if we don't want the value to be overridden at any point. So that's something that's going to stay the same throughout the whole program all the way through. And both these keywords, const and let, are fairly new additions to JavaScript, and it's a modern way to create variables. And I would recommend using it almost 100% of the time. So just to recap, let, if you might change the type of the variable, or not the type, but the number of the variable, and const is if you're never ever going to change it. There is an older keyword that you can use to create variables as well, which is the var keyword. So if we're ever talking about variables, then we are talking about let or const. So let's do a simple one. So var score equals 75. Then if I say console.log score, so it'll still work, exactly the same work. Oh, actually, let's just get rid of this so we don't get the error. Save it. You can still see this score, 75. Doesn't show anything different. So anytime you see var, that's basically just the older way of using let or const. You will still see loads of people using var, and we're going to stick with let and const. If you want to use var, you can. It's not always the best way of doing it. I'm trying to teach you like the newest way of doing things. So that's why I'm teaching with let and const. And also, it just makes things a lot more simple, because if I say, okay, create a variable that could change, you would use let. If I said create a variable that's never going to change, you use const. If I say create a variable, you just use var previously. Now remember, one thing that's really important is with variable names, you cannot have spaces. So if you put like my space age, look, there you go, has no idea what you're doing. So it has to be one keyword, much like CSS in a way. You can use camel case, so you can do, whoops, my and age. There you go, there's camel case for you. And that's the first constraint. Second one, variables can only contain letters, numbers, underscores, or dollar signs. But they can't start with a number. They can start with any of the other things, like underscore or a dollar. So you could do it like that. Oops, I'm moving. So you can't say 5H because it's not going to work. You can do an underscore, you can do a dollar. There are also some reserved keywords in JavaScript that you can't use because they're already pre-built in. For example, like let and const and var. So I can't call any variable I want const because, again, it's looking at it as something else, or it's reserved for creating constants. So what I'll do is I think that's about it. Now you can find the reserved JavaScript keywords at W3 Schools. What we do is just add a link to it or something, and that should be fine, shouldn't it? Now another important thing when programming is try and make the variables or the names of the variables actual meaningful. So if another developer looks at your work, then they can understand what it's meant to represent. So age.